Giancarlo Stanton and the Miami Marlins travel to New York to face the Mets.
Hit right field towards the corner. Gone!
The pregame's at 3:30 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 4:30. Saturday on ESPN Radio.
Get ready to embrace debate. First Take starts now.
Coming up on the First Take podcast, the Cavs stole home court advantage from the Hawks, but LeBron's fourth quarter play made Stephen A. Smith a little surprised. Plus, is there a deal in place between Robert Kraft and Roger Goodell? Also, Floyd Mayweather does not believe Manny Pacquiao was injured. All that and more coming up on the First Take podcast. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Take. Thursday, Kerry champions get Bayless in studio, Stephen A. Smith in Atlanta, where Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals took place. Good morning, Stephen A.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
So I noticed that guy, what's that guy's name? Floyd Mayweather, he was courtside last night?
He was.
Does that mean you were hanging out with him after the game?
Yes, he was.
Yeah?
I told you I don't hang out with Floyd Mayweather. I just consider him the best boxer on the planet, which he showed against Manny Pacquiao.
He certainly
and certain
considers
people still
himself
can't get
the best
over.
boxer.
But it was nice to see him.
Yeah, well, it's going to be nice to talk about him later in the show.
He's chilling.
Because he still won't recognize the fact that Manny Pacquiao needed surgery to repair his rotator cuff. Yeah. We get to talk about that later.
That's
Floyd.
a part of the discussion. Yeah.
Perhaps
he's up and watching.
Set yourself up to get your feelings hurt if you want to.
If you like. On the show today, the league has fined its MVP for flopping. Steph Curry says, "Why me?" His coach also agrees. There's outrage there we will discuss. Plus, as just mentioned by Mr. Bayless, Floyd Mayweather still doesn't believe Manny Pacquiao was injured. Why is that? That is the conversation ahead. But first, LeBron James and the Cavs win Game 1 with a major effort from J.R. Smith. But let's discuss another Smith. LeBron said he didn't play the way he wanted to in the fourth, and our own Stephen A. Smith had an interesting take. Let's listen.
I saw LeBron playing around, and you've never seen LeBron that. You've never seen possessions at a time, multiple possessions where he seemed to not be taking it seriously. But there was like a 6-minute chunk of period of time in the fourth quarter. We had Paul Millsap on him, and he was literally toying around and costing the Cleveland Cavaliers possessions. He didn't seem to be taking the game seriously until it got tight again, and then obviously he went in for that thunderous slam and helped close the deal. But it was very surprising to see LeBron James approach any period of a game that way. I've never seen it from him before in that chunk of time. I might have seen a play here or there, but never over a period of minutes, particularly in the fourth quarter. It was quite surprising.
All right, Stephen A. surprised, by the way, LeBron, in his opinion, played around. Skip Bayless, do you agree with your partner?
Wow. I was shocked by Stephen A.'s surprise. In fact, Stephen A. Smith, I had two shocks, one yesterday and one last night, or actually early this morning, since I've last seen you. One was the Steph flop fine that we're about to talk about in our second question. The other was, very early this morning, I saw my friend Stephen A. Smith talking back to me on TV, saying, what? That LeBron was playing around in the fourth quarter, so now we're about to have role reversal on First Take, because I am about to criticize you for unfairly, in my view, criticizing LeBron James. Because I'm sorry, I don't get it. From my heart, last night, I liked and I respected the way LeBron James played in the fourth quarter. In fact, if you'll let me say this, I was proud of LeBron James for the way he played in the fourth quarter. Obviously, as we all know, DeMarre Carroll had been hurt, jammed his knee in the third quarter and was gone. God bless him. I hope he's okay, because that would really undercut this series and take a lot of the air out of it if he can't go on. We'll find out later from the MRI. But all of a sudden, Paul Millsap was forced to cover LeBron James, and he did so, Stephen A. Smith, with a very un-Spurs-like strategy. Obviously, Coach Popovich has always dared LeBron James to shoot jump shots, especially from the three-point line. And in this case, the Popovich disciple, Mike Budenholzer, who coaches the Atlanta Hawks, had Millsap try to get up into LeBron out at the half-court line. And I'm saying, what are you doing? And that, to me, was what LeBron James was saying, and I get it. If you want to say that was his definition of playing around, I think for a while he was looking at Paul Millsap like, you are going to try to guard me like this? Because it was just stupid to me. Paul Millsap cannot guard LeBron James at the half-court line because obviously he's just not quick enough. So LeBron did exactly the right thing. He began to drive around him. I know he made some faces for a while, but then he continued to attack. He had one rough late stretch where he missed 5 straight shots, but it wasn't because he wasn't trying, because he wasn't getting the foul calls. I was shocked. They're not, these refs aren't giving LeBron a whole lot of respect because he attacked and he attacked and he attacked. And finally, with 37 seconds left, as you well know, after Atlanta had creeped back into the game, got within 5, LeBron James blew by Paul Millsap, blew right down the lane, and finally, Al Horford, I don't know what he was doing, did not pick up LeBron James. And LeBron went uncontested to the hoop for a slam that slammed the door on the Atlanta Hawks. That made it 93-87, and that was ball game with 37 seconds left. So, again, silly me. I was impressed with the way LeBron played the fourth quarter because he attempted 0 3-point shots, only took 1 for the game. Way to go, LeBron James. Obviously, he was 3 for 28 from 3 against the Chicago Bulls in the previous 6 games. So, Stephen A., I was impressed, and I'm surprised you were not impressed.
Well, first of all, I didn't say that I wasn't impressed. Obviously, he finished the game with 31 points. I was also incredibly impressed by the fact that when J.R. Smith went ballistic and was dropping threes from all over the place, LeBron was on the bench, if you recall, Skip, at that particular moment in time. The minute he was reinserted into the game, he made 2 buckets just to let them know and remind the Atlanta Hawks and the Atlanta crowd, J.R. Smith is not the only individual you have to contend with tonight. Yes, I'm still here, and you have to contend with me. But ultimately, that onslaught by J.R. Smith, ultimately assisted by LeBron James, gave the Cleveland Cavaliers an 18-point lead with under 8 minutes remaining. I think it was like at the 7:02 mark, they had an 18-point lead, and you could just sense that it was pretty much over. Ultimately, over the next 5 minutes, in which LeBron James missed 5 consecutive shots, Skip Bayless, they were able to close it to 4, primarily due in large part to LeBron James and how he was playing around for the exact reasons you highlighted. He's looking at Paul Millsap and literally laughing like, you think you can guard me? Y'all think he can guard me? This is a joke. And he was holding the ball entirely too long, which he admitted. He engaged in isolation play, which he admitted. He allowed the opposing defense, the Atlanta Hawks, to set up on too many occasions, which he admitted. And obviously he needs to do better, which he also admitted. So all I was doing was pointing out that the LeBron James that I usually see over the course of 48 minutes repeatedly and relentlessly and tenaciously in attack mode, he took a break over those 5 minutes last night to be specific. He was holding the ball, he was dribbling, and it wasn't just to let the shot clock go down. It was also because he was playing around, because he was like, first of all, we got this game, and secondly, it's an absolute joke that you think that Paul Millsap, who's really a power forward, because that's how he plays, can be this further away from the basket to trying to stick me. He thought it was laughable, as most of us do, even though we respect Paul Millsap. That's all I was trying to say. LeBron James is the best player in the world. I knew they were going to win the game. We've got them winning the series. We know how he can play and what he has done. All I'm saying is that for a chunk of 5 minutes, LeBron James was primarily, if not totally responsible for an 18-point lead, dwindling to 4, and the game being far more interesting in the fourth quarter than it needed to be because they had a cushion. He knew it. He knew they were going to win. And ultimately, he took it for granted. I didn't mean for it to be a big deal, but they asked me the question on SportsCenter. I answered it. You brought it up here on First Take. I'm telling you, even though it's not that big of a deal because he's LeBron James, he's one of the few players in the world who can afford to do that because he can make up for it, because he can close. In the end, it doesn't negate the fact that, in my opinion, for those 5 minutes, he was playing around because he knew he wasn't worried about the Atlanta Hawks at that particular moment. Once they were up 18, he wasn't concerned about it. And it showed. It's no big deal. That's what happened.
No big deal.
I'm telling you what happened.
So I'm about to go Stephen A. Smith
It wasn't.
on
They won the
Stephen
game.
A.
It's
Smith.
Atlanta.
It's my turn now to say. Now, wait a second.
Say what?
This man scored 31 points last night on 12 of 26 shots, and you are nitpicking the way he played in the fourth quarter. This man took over the game for most of the game, and I think you might even be suggesting they were better off when J.R. Smith was in the game and LeBron was on the bench? Really? This is LeBron James we're talking about, best player on the planet.
I'm telling you, again, if you're playing around and the 18-point lead is relatively maintained, that's different. But Skip Bayless, the Atlanta Hawks closed it to within 4 with 2 minutes left. There was plenty of time for them to win the game. I'm telling you that usually LeBron James is the kind of dude that will put his foot on your throat and take you out of here, as opposed to playing around. Again, it's not a big deal to me because they won the game. But during that 5-minute period, when I'm sitting there, I'm standing in there courtside, watching him play around, I did find myself saying, what the hell are you doing? Finish these boys off. You're on the road. You're in Atlanta. You know, they can get hot. Kyle Korver's not going to miss every shot. Jeff Teague finished the night with 27 points. You know, who knows what Al Horford can end up doing. Don't give them a chance to make this interesting. Finish them off. During that 5-minute stretch, I did find myself saying that, you know, quietly in my own voice to LeBron because I thought he was playing around. And I stand by it. I didn't make the damn thing up. Look at what transpired.
LeBron,
he was playing around.
I've got your back.
Oh, you're his best friend now.
I am defending you today against this unfair onslaught of criticism from my partner, Stephen A. Smith. So remember,
How's it an onslaught?
I've got
How's
you.
it criticism?
Yeah, it's a little nitpicky to me because they did.
Go ahead and get him, Skip.
They
He's
won by
very
8.
happy he has you, Skip. He's very happy he has you.
That's correct. And by the way, Atlanta shot 4 for 23 from 3, so I'm not even sure how big a threat it was. Bazemore did have a 3 that could have cut it to, what was it, to 5 maybe at one point? I don't know.
You've seen Atlanta. I'm just saying, you've seen Atlanta come back. We saw what happened with the Clippers in Houston. I'm just saying it's the sport. You never know what could happen. You don't play around in the fourth quarter, especially during a playoff game. You finish them off. I think that LeBron was playing around for that 5-minute period, that all. And then after that, all right, enough's enough. Let me finish them now. So he did what he's capable of doing.
Yeah.
But he was playing around.
Way to go, LeBron.
He's playing around for those 5 minutes. That's all I'm saying.
Best player on the planet.
We take away Skip Bayless is here for LeBron. You have his back. That's what we've decided. League MVP Steph Curry says he doesn't agree with the NBA's decision to fine him $5,000 for violating the league's anti-flopping rule against Houston Rockets in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. The league said Wednesday that he exaggerated contact after his three-pointer with 3 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the fourth. Curry made the shot and fell to the court after getting bumped by Terrence Jones. Steve Kerr says he's morally outraged.
These plays happen every day. I don't think a game goes by where Jamal Crawford doesn't flop 6 times on his three-point shots. It's part of the game. And I don't blame him for doing it because a lot of times the refs call it. Russell Westbrook does it. Everybody does it. So all of a sudden, just randomly, to find Steph just seems kind of strange. Are we just choosing one time to do this? You can pick out flops every single game from half the guys out on the floor, so it just seems sort of random.
All right, so Steve Kerr says it seems sort of random, but Skip, you heard Steve Kerr say something different from that?
No, there was a little bit before that where he said, yes, Steph flops. I'm paraphrasing how he said it. I wish I heard the first of the sound. But anyway, the point is...
Surprised by it?
Yes. I was stunned by it, Stephen A., because that's a pretty bizarre reaction from the coach of the Golden State Warriors in the heat of a conference finals series to me. I assume it was a completely honest reaction from an old school player who won championships, Steve Kerr did, alongside the great Michael Jordan, and who despises in and of himself the art of flopping that has at times taken over the game these days. And remember, Steve Kerr was a tough kid. He made some big shots for the Bulls. Remember the anecdote from practice? He got into it one day with Michael Jordan in practice, and Michael dropped him with one punch. So Steve comes across as a nice guy, but he was a really tough guy. He doesn't like flopping. The point is, though, that right now he is the coach of the new MVP of this league. And part and parcel of that is being the public protector of the MVP. So, to me, I was shocked at the reaction because I didn't think it was a flop in the first place. Silly me, I thought it was a foul, Stephen A., and I thought it at the flashpoint moment I saw it. I thought that Terrence Jones body fouled Steph on the way by him, that they banged bodies, and did Steph maybe slightly exaggerate his fall? Maybe, like on a flopping scale of 1 to 10, maybe it was a 1 as a flop, but there was a foul. I thought that should have been called, and as we all know, he somehow made the 3. So I thought it should have been a 4. And the point here is that the NBA singled out and embarrassed its new MVP for that? Are you kidding me? That should have been Steve Kerr's reaction. You're doing that to that guy after all he's done for this league and for us this year? It was just completely out of bounds. It's bizarre. It's hard to explain why they would suddenly publicly fine and embarrass Steph Curry for what could have been called a foul. So it wasn't even really a flat-out flop. Your thought?
Well, for me, my initial thoughts was I agree with you that it was not a flop. I thought that Terrence Jones' body, caught some of Steph, and then transition when you're pulling up like that. Certainly, I agree with Steph Curry that I didn't think it was a flop at all on his part, and I agree with you in terms of thinking that he was fouled. At the same time, an offensive foul could have easily been called against Steph Curry because before he got hit by Terrence Jones, in both of our opinion, I thought he pushed off. I can't tell whether it was Brew or Jason Terry that he shrugged with his right shoulder. Yeah. But nevertheless, he pushed off to create room to get the shot off. Maybe. And to me, he could have easily been called for an offensive foul there.
Whole nother issue.
So to me, the ref missed the offensive foul call. The ref missed the offensive foul call, number one. And number two, they made the mistake by calling it a flop because we know that Terrence Jones' body touched Steph Curry, so I don't think it was a flop. But I'm not going to go as far as to say the league embarrassed him. I mean, it's a part of the game, and it's a rule that they've come down with that they're trying to really engage its personnel in. They don't want flopping. I spoke to former Commissioner David Stern on several occasions about this in the past, and he was the one that strongly advocated the rule being instituted and guys being fined. Matter of fact, David Stern and I were talking about it, and he was talking about, maybe we'll come up with a fine to stop this flopping and stuff because it's too much whining to the referees and what have you. And sure enough, a few months later, that's exactly what he ended up doing, making sure that this rule was implemented. So it's a pet peeve of his. It was a pet peeve of people in the league office. It's something that they want to eradicate from the game because they despise the fact that guys are always in the face of the referees even when they know they're wrong. They hate the notion that referees are being worked, that they're trying to be manipulated. They accept it from the coaches because you understand that. That's the job of a coach, essentially. But they despise the players being the ones that actually actually engage in flopping and things of that nature, or trying to coax the referee into making a call in their favor, because they truly are of the mindset that players should just go out there and play and do your best and go up against somebody else at their best and see who comes out victorious. That's the way they view things. And I don't think it's embarrassing that Steph Curry got a $5,000 fine. I don't think any of us are looking at Steph Curry and saying, oh, my Lord, he got $5,000. He was embarrassed.
Well, he was embarrassed. He got shown up yesterday as sort of the face of flopping. I don't remember any of the flopping fines through the playoffs. Maybe I missed one someplace. But how could you single out that small instance of flopping by the new MVP? You know what? I'll tell you what it came across to me as. You may think I'm reaching for this, but it's Brady-esque. Oh. Not that it's the same thing, but it's where you're reaching to show up your MVP, your star of the league, for something that is gray area at best. I don't think Tom Brady did anything to doctor his footballs. I don't think he was responsible. In this case, I think a foul should have been called for Steph, not that he gets fined for flopping here. So it's not like Tom Brady. It's just Brady-esque. It's a similar situation. Why would you do it to this guy at this moment, at this time? Again, you're trying to make a statement.
Well, the statement that you're trying to make is that you are a strong advocate against flopping. And if you're willing to sit there and dime out the league MVP for flopping, nobody is immune and nobody is safe to the consequences of flopping. However, at the same time, it's a $5,000 fine for a multimillionaire who's a star in the NBA entering Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. This is not even going to be a story after tonight's game. Nobody's going to be thinking about the fact that Steph Curry got fined $5,000. I mean, please.
Yeah, they are.
That's like somebody getting fined a penny to these guys. I mean,
it's
nobody
not the fine.
cares.
It could be a penny.
It's not embarrassing.
The fine could be a penny because all that matters, again, Brady-esque, Brady's reputation got damaged. No matter whether he did it or didn't do it, it got damaged. And in this case, Steph had to answer to this yesterday. Now it's ingrained in the minds of fans everywhere outside Warrior Nation that Steph is a flopper. That's just wrong. I don't consider him a flopper. Well, seriously, you singled him out as your face of flopping.
If he were
That's what you just did.
If he were defending James Harden, and let's say, for example, James Harden was going to the basket and pushed off, and Steph Curry exaggerated and fell back as if James Harden really elbowed him or something and gave him an offensive foul, and the league sat there and said, you know what, Steph, we thought you flopped on that defensive play, what would you be saying?
And they fined him for that? And it was a clear-cut flop?
Yeah, so they flop it.
Okay. Well, at least I'd say, well, that's a clear.
They find it. In other words, if you try to sell, hold on. If you try to sell an offensive foul on a part of James Harden, all right, and it worked, but then the league turned around and said, Steph Curry, that was not an offensive foul on that play. You flopped defensively. Would we be having this discussion?
No, because that would be a clear-cut, blatant flop, and I'd say, okay, you got him. I would understand, although I watched 7 games of my Spurs against the Clippers, and Ginobili flopped at least 7 times.
Okay.
At least 7 times that were far worse than this flop, because this wasn't a flop. Why would you single that play out? That's my point. You agree with me it was a foul.
That's not the question. That's not the question. The question is, would it be embarrassing? Your Manu Ginobili flopped 7 times, you just said. Are you embarrassed by Manu Ginobili? Is the world embarrassed by Manu Ginobili because of flopping? No. It's part of the game. They find you, they catch you, they find you. It's no big deal. There's nothing embarrassing about it, is all that I'm trying to say.
The world has already decided that Ginobili flops. And he's lost respect around the country because of that, around the world for that matter, because he's a flopper. He was the king of floppers for a long time. I don't love it either. Steph Curry has no reputation until right now. He got fined on the second biggest stage in the sport, the conference finals, as the new MVP. Are you kidding me? That's outrageous, and that's out of bounds for this league to try to single him out to make that statement. I'm sorry.
It was the wrong call for the league to make. We agree on that. Just don't tell me it's embarrassing, like, oh, my God, now Steph Curry's reputation is impugned because the league fined him for flopping. Who cares? Nobody cares.
Well,
but
I do. I do. That's all that matters to me is that I do. And Carrie does.
Skip is putting me in it, too.
Yeah.
Stephen A's like, who cares?
She doesn't care.
Yes, she does.
She doesn't care.
I can tell.
Who cares?
She ain't thinking about Steph Curry flopping.
Who cares?
You know what?
Be honest, Carrie. Be honest.
I'm honest. I don't care.
You know
who cares?
What? You stayed out too late with Floyd last night.
Oh, Skip.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You need another hour of sleep. It's okay.
I didn't.
I'm okay.
You can believe what you want. Hey, I'm here.
Yes, you are.
I'm here, ain't I?
Yes. And for
Thank
that,
you.
I love you.
Roger Goodell saying at the owners' meetings that Robert Kraft's decision not to appeal the team's punishment does not affect Tom Brady's appeal of his 4-game suspension. Let's listen.
The decision that Robert made was his decision. I admire and respect Robert, as you all know. We've had plenty of discussions over the last couple of weeks, And this was his initiative and something he wanted to do. And I certainly admire the step he took. We may disagree on things, but that's not unusual. That happens.
However, Robert Kraft's 180, so to speak, has left some to believe that there's been backdoor conversations, perhaps a deal in place. Our NFL analyst, Mark Schlereth, is here. Mark, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Good to have
Stephen A., your buddy's here, and you're not here.
Big time.
Hey, man. Good
Yes,
to
sir.
see you. Good to be with
My
you
man.
guys. I appreciate it.
Wait, I
bro?
thought he was my buddy.
Is he not?
Yes,
Who
No,
are you?
I'm buddies with both.
Oh, okay.
We're okay. All of us.
All of us?
One
You gotta
big
make it
happy,
clear.
one big happy family.
We gotta make it clear.
All right, yeah.
Very good.
Yes. You got to make it clear. All right, so listen, gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Do you truly believe, if you had to just think about it, some type of backdoor deal was brought
Right.
between the two?
I really believe, initially, that's the first thought that comes to your mind, right? There's some type of backdoor deal. There's some type of leniency here. If we do this, will you do this for us? And that was my initial gut reaction to watching that appeal being dropped by Robert Kraft. But I really think it comes down to this. Tom Brady, if he meets with Roger Goodell and presents some new information, or at least says, listen, what went on was this is what went on, and basically tries to appease the commissioner, I really believe the fine will be reduced, the suspension will be reduced. But, initially, like I said, my gut reaction was there was some type of deal done here, some type of deal, some type of situation where they're going to reduce it. But my sense now is that didn't happen. That they talked about it. They talked about the reduction. They talked about the fact that Tom Brady is the face of the league in many respects, and sitting for 4 games is really going to hurt that organization and hurt the league in general. But I really think it comes down to what does Tom Brady present to Roger Goodell when they meet face to face. And if there is some contrition there, I really believe that will be reduced. But I don't think I think they're independent of one another. I don't think it has to do with Robert Kraft dropping his appeal.
All right. Stephen A.
Well, listen, I've said that when it happened. I mean, I was trying to tell Skip yesterday, it's undeniable that Robert Kraft has not just been about the Patriots. He's been about the NFL. He's been about the Shield. He's been about what's in the best interest of the game. He's a large contributor to the recent success that the NFL has had, and facilitating that success, whether it be doing collective bargaining negotiations, whether it's negotiations with the television networks, etc. Robert Kraft has had a lot to do with that. And so when he stands before the masses and he articulates that it's not just about me, I've got 31 other owners to take into consideration as well, and the league itself, and the health of the league and the well-being of the league. And we've all surmised that the longer this stuff ends and continues to lead to headlines, the worse it is for the Shield. Then I don't understand how for anybody it would appear to be beyond the realm of comprehension that Robert Kraft would be willing to make the move that he made in terms of his refusal to appeal the decision. Anytime you work for a company or a corporation, one of the things that we always talk about being role models, we talk about the importance of those in the spotlight, in the limelight, articulating a message for young folks on the come up to really inhale and to grasp. Well, this is our opportunities on a personal level to do just that, reminding folks that a lot of times it just can't be about you, no matter how tempting it is, no matter how right you may be in being selfish in that regard. If you work for a corporation, if you work for an entity, you are never bigger than the brand as an individual. And it's incumbent upon you to recognize that. And I think that when you got a guy that presides over a franchise, owns a franchise that's worth in excess of $2.3 billion, like Robert Kraft is of the New England Patriots, I applaud his decision. And I totally believe him when he says that this is about what's in the best interest of the league. Tom Brady has his own business to handle. And if I'm Tom Brady and you're talking about the reduction of a suspension or whatever, I've heard Skip spew ad nauseum about how Tom Brady is swearing he's absolutely, unequivocally innocent and he's going to fight this to the hilt, et cetera, et cetera. Well, again, what if Roger Goodell sits there and says, okay, I could possibly reduce the 2 games as it pertains to your innocence or guilt, But I'm still going to leave 2 games on that suspension because you were not as cooperative as I believe you should have been. That is perfectly within my purview as the commissioner of this league to make that decision, that had you been more cooperative, then you wouldn't be having this level of a suspension. So at the very least, I'm leaving 2 games on here just because you were uncooperative. I think that I don't know how a court in the world, let alone in this nation, can refute Roger Goodell on that. He has every right as the commissioner to make that call because it is powers bestowed upon him through collective bargaining and by the owners he represents. Tom Brady can't supersede that, no matter how great he is.
Okay, and Tom Brady has every right as a United States citizen to attempt to clear his name in court if it comes to that. So, back to Kerry's question.
Yep.
Do I believe there was a back channel deal? I'm with you. My instincts tell me, sure, they probably, because they're so close and they sort of kissed and made up, so to speak,
Right.
on Saturday night. They hugged it out. Were there discussions that went on and on about, hey, if you'll back off, we'll back off a little bit? I guess that makes sense, but I do agree with this from Stephen A. Smith. Robert Kraft, a league man to the core, a longtime defender of Roger Goodell, chose the league over his quarterback for the greater good of that league.
Sure.
And I admire that to a point, but it leaves his quarterback high and dry. And I'm going to restate what Stephen A. said. I spew every day. I don't think I spew it. I think I just say it. That I'm told and have been told for 3 weeks that Tom Brady is adamant he's 100% innocent here. So when you say, okay, if he shows a little contrition to the commissioner, I get it, but you're presuming guilt. You're presuming Tom is guilty as charged. You got him, and so now if he'll just show a little contrition, they'll reduce to 2 games. Well, again, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I'm hearing from the confidants that he's 100% convinced that he had nothing to do with this, and he's convinced those around him, which is why he went so far as to hire a guy you're aware of, a Jeffrey Kessler, long been a thorn in the side of the NFL, as a superstar attorney who does not like Goodell and the league and would leap upon the opportunity to stick it to them, especially if he could be on the side of the quarterback in the National Football League, the guy with 4 rings. So will this get to a court battle? Again, they would be up against it in a court battle, but the point here is Tom Brady wants to clear his name. He's not interested in 2 games because 2 games is still an admission or concession of some guilt. That's why I had such a problem with Robert Kraft just waving the white flag after all of his attacks on the league, because he waved the white flag, and then the world, the outside Patriots nation, says, oh, so you're conceding some guilt. They did get you. They caught you, right, Robert? Because that's what it's
right. I understand that, but if you have, yes, go. Well, I'm just saying, if you have no guilt, if you feel like there is no guilt,
I'm sorry.
There is no guilt here.
Sure.
And you feel like you are completely in the right, then why would you not cooperate with the Ted Wells investigation? Why are you not turning over? They didn't say, hey, give us your cell phone and let us root through it. They said, give us any pertinent text messages you have in that regard, so that we can look at those. And we will
I have one side of that story. I have one side. I have the Wells report side. And I find it laughable and preposterous that Ted Wells would say to Tom Brady's attorney, you pick and choose the texts and the emails. That's laughable. He wouldn't do that. Oh, please.
We'll take whatever. We'll take your word for it. Give us the pertinent text messages. The bottom line is, the other thing is from the standpoint of the deflator and the stuff that has come out has been, you want to talk about laughable? Deflation is in regards to losing weight?
Yeah.
I mean, you want the excuses and the garbage that's come out of that?
That became parody of the Wells report. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to parody it because they thought it was so laughable and so many leaps were made off circumstantial evidence. Go ahead, Stephen A.
Well, Skip Bayless, first of all, to piggyback off of something that you said earlier, To spew, the definition of spewing is ejecting or gushing in disgust or anger. I stick by that word when it classifies. Yes, I did. I did look it up. I did look it up. I did look at it. So that's number one. All right. Spew is appropriate. Number two, and more importantly, well, he's right, because I did look it up. I had to double check. I knew the word right, and I got it right. I was right. You do spew. Number two, Skip. You talk about Tom Brady, and you talk about y'all are living, giggling. I don't know if y'all hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
When you talk about Tom Brady, and what I'm just making sure. I'm just making sure. When you talk about Tom Brady, and we talk about this Wells investigation, Mark makes a good point, because you keep saying, Skip, you heard one side. Well, it's not like Tom Brady hasn't had an opportunity to tell his side. We've been waiting for him to hear his side. He hasn't spoken. So what do you want anybody to do?
He's about to speak to the man who matters.
Opportunity to speak.
Okay, but he does business differently from the way you do.
So nobody else matters, right?
He doesn't care about speaking publicly. He cares about speaking if it's Goodell who's going to oversee the appeal. He cares about that. He cares about testifying in court if it comes to that. That's what matters and counts to him.
I have a question. Fine. I have a question. Are you saying that it does not matter to Tom Brady if half the world believes he's a liar and a cheater?
It really matters, which is why he wants to clear his name the right way, not by saying, but by doing, by providing his evidence. I think they will shred the Wells report if it ever gets to court in ways that you have no idea. I think a lot has not come out yet about this.
You know what the problem with your position is, Skip? You keep bringing it up as it pertains to the Wells report. You know what bothers me about Tom Brady's procrastination in addressing his side based on the Wells investigation? Let me see what evidence you have, and let me refute that evidence. That is entirely different than standing front and center and saying, I don't give a damn what evidence you have. I'm innocent. I'm not guilty of this. This is an absolute lie. It's a farce. I don't care what you have to say. I am telling you it is false. To me, your position is, the Wells investigation, we're going to pick that apart. You know what word comes to my mind, what two words come to my mind when you bring up the Wells investigation in terms of Tom Brady's reaction to it? Plausible deniability. Let me sit there and nip and tuck away at your argument against me to validate myself, as opposed to simply stating it's plain for everybody to see. I'm innocent of this. I had nothing to do with some damn deflated footballs. Period. He's never done it.
You're trying to impose your nature on Tom Brady. You want to win the fight in the court of public opinion. He wants to win the fight in a court of law, or at least in a court of appeals of the National Football League, which probably will be a charade if Roger Goodell, in fact, oversees the appeal. So they're looking longer term.
I just asked you. Yeah. I just asked you.
Well, time out, Stephen A. Let me get Mark Schlereth in here.
I just asked you about...
Can you help me out here? Let's fast forward. So the appeals process, how do you see this playing out?
Well, again, as Skip said, obviously Tom Brady wants to take this from a legal standpoint, right? He wants to have his ducks in a row, and he wants to have his lawyers do their thing. And I understand that you have the right to do that, bottom line. But from the court of just common sense, of playing in the league and understanding how the league works, for me, it is inconceivable to think that you're playing with deflated footballs. The quarterback that handles those footballs every time has no knowledge of what goes on, and you have no knowledge of the equipment guys that are dealing with those things. That's laughable. Jim Kelly, Hall of Fame quarterback, was on NFL Live yesterday saying that's laughable. It's just flat out laughable to think that anybody would do that, that any equipment manager would actually take it upon himself, like, hey, make sure you go out there and put your best foot forward so that you can maybe rise to the level of second in charge of the equipment room, that you would deflate footballs on your own.
Are you 100% sure, Mark, that those footballs were underinflated that night? Are you 100% off what you read in the Wells report?
No, I am not 100% sure of anything other than I'm 100% sure that the New England Patriots and Tom Brady did not fully cooperate with the NFL's investigation, and therefore they are getting a lifetime achievement award when it comes to finding.
That's the head coach. That's the head coach. That's not Tom Brady.
Well, sure, Tom Brady's part of that organization.
Okay, but he's not making those calls. Like the Spygate call, he didn't say, let's take the defense.
Okay, if those balls were in fact deflated, there is no way if Tom Brady likes a overinflated ball as Aaron Rodgers does that the coach is going to go, no, we're playing with underinflated balls. That's absolutely, from the common sense standpoint of playing in the league and understanding how it operates, there's no way any head coach is going to say, oh, my quarterback likes the balls at a certain level, but we're going to deflate him because I think it's better for us as a team. They're not doing that.
Just the last quick point of order.
Go ahead.
There were 2 gauges used that night. Walt Coleman, the referee who checked the balls before the game, can't remember which gauge he used. But when they used them at halftime to recheck the footballs, one gauge had them regulation and the other had them underinflated. Which is it? So there are discrepancies. And again, when they were asked about it on that conference call, when Ted Wells and his partner was on the phone with him, he had to hand the phone to his partner to answer that question, and he didn't explain it because they can't. They didn't nail that part down. That's a loophole in the Wells investigation. So big picture, is it conceivable to you that from 2001 on, Tom Brady told his equipment people, told his head coach, I like my balls inflated to the lower end of regulation, to the lower side. Again, Aaron Rodgers says, I like mine to the top side of it. But it's still regulation, and that's all he knows about. Whatever happens after that is out of his control. Did those 2 guys go rogue and do it for Tom Brady's sake? Did they underinflate? I don't know. I don't know enough. I just know Brady thinks he's 100% innocent and wants to clear his name here.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. He does think he's 100% innocent. Otherwise, he wouldn't continue to fight it.
He wouldn't. He would just take his medicine and say, okay, maybe I can get 2 games.
I understand that. But herein lies the problem with that theory is, then why are you not cooperating?
I don't know that he didn't, except my friend Stephen A. Smith has told me.
He didn't turn over his text messages.
But Stephen A. says he would not give his cell phone up in an investigation like this. The part of it, picking and choosing, that's laughable. What would that prove?
My position.
Oh, so I'll pick this text because that
any text you have with the equipment managers, you turn them over.
You would? On Scout's honor? Really?
I was gonna be Mark Schlereth. I was going to be quiet. Once again, for the 4th consecutive day, Skip Bayless has lied on me again.
No, I
Mark
haven't.
Schlereth, just so you know, what I said is this. My cell phone, I would never give my cell phone up. But if asked to show text messages or emails directly related to the incident in question, and you're not leaving the room with my cell phone, I would have shown those emails and text messages.
Why is that
laughable? Keeps lying
that you would conduct an investigation on Scout's honor. You pick and choose the text, and this one's incriminating. I think I'll give you this one. I'll give you this one because this one's this just says nothing. Innocuous text here. What would that prove? It's cell phone or no cell phone? I told you I'd give my cell phone up in a second. But you said right to privacy. No, you wouldn't.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
By the way, if it does go to
good.
So here's the question. 4-game suspension. In your gut feeling, you know the NFL. It gets reduced to 2, 0. Where does it end?
Well, I think it'll get reduced to 2, but I personally now, on the scale of cheating, this is setting your cruise control at 72 and a 65.
Okay.
You know what I thought it was? I thought the effect of deflated footballs was negligible at best. Okay. And this is, again, in my opinion, a Lifetime Achievement Award for circumventing the rules. And we'll get into that a little bit deeper.
Well, maybe it has something to do with their history. We'll talk about that, actually, on the other side of the break.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Recently removed from a Super Bowl win with the Patriots and newly signed to the Jets, quarterback Darrelle Revis was asked about Deflategate. This is what he had to say. The Patriots have a history of doing stuff. You can't hide that. Tom was there when they did that stuff in the past. New England's been doing stuff in the past and getting in trouble. When stuff repeatedly happens, then that's that. I don't know what else to tell you. Stuff repeatedly happened through the years. You got Spygate, you got this and that, and everything else. Obviously, in those situations in the past, they had the evidence, so they did what they needed to do. They, being the league, did what they had to do. Still here, Mark Schlereth, our NFL analyst. Comments, inbounds or out of bounds to you?
You know, it's interesting. I think it's inbounds, and this is something that has been asked to me a lot lately. I hosted this big corporate event just last week, and it was a question that kept coming up to me about the National Football League and about Deflategate over the course of the couple of days that I was at this event. And here's my take just on the culture of the National Football League, and I'm going to relate it to baseball. For years, baseball turned a blind eye to the use of steroids. Right? They turned a blind eye to it, and as a matter of fact, they encouraged the use of steroids by giving guys that were not maybe the best baseball players exorbitant contracts because of the numbers they produced while using. And they knew that steroids were a problem, but it was bringing people to the ballpark, so they didn't do anything about it until public outrage happened, right? Until they got called to Congress. And then what did baseball do? The management of baseball? Oh my gosh, aghast, right? Oh, we can't believe steroids are going on in our game. We've got to bring down the hammer. And right, it's hard to change a culture of an organization. The National Football League has had a culture of, I don't even want to call it cheating. I'm going to call it circumventing the rules or stepping to the line and sometimes crossing the line. And it's been a part of not only the New England Patriots, but I dare say it's been a part of just about every organization in the National Football League. There is no question. It depends on what you consider cheating and what you consider circumventing the rules. For me, for instance, pumping crowd noise, the Atlanta Falcons, pumping crowd noise into a stadium for an opposing offense is far more of an advantage to that defense than deflating a football is. I guarantee you that. Having been in crowd noise and having played in those games, there's no question in my mind. How about calling down with your cell phone against the rules? Did it happen with Farmer and the Cleveland Browns? Absolutely, it happens.
The advantages there, but
I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I'm not sure either. But it's against the rules. How about circumventing the salary cap? My Denver Broncos that won world championships circumvented the salary cap. How much of an advantage is that on the field? I don't know, but it's against the rules. When I was with the Washington Redskins, did we hide extra guys on the IR? Absolutely. It was standard operating procedure in the National Football League. All right. So the bottom line is, this has been a league that has cultivated a culture of circumventing the rules and pushing it to the maximum level to get whatever advantage you think you're getting. And now all of a sudden, because of bad PR, because they haven't handled their business publicly, now they're deciding we've got to change the culture of our league. And the New England Patriots, because of the Lifetime Achievement Award, of the Spygate and the other things, they're the ones that are basically getting punished to the nth degree here, in my opinion. You're talking about in what I think should be, you know, a $50,000 fine or whatever to a 4-game suspension is ginormous. But basically, they are now putting down the hammer, saying we're not going to allow this kind of conduct anymore. And for everybody else, the Minnesota Vikings, who were warming up footballs in November on the sideline against the rules, against the Carolina Panthers, we're not going to put up with this anymore. They got their wrists slapped. It's been a league of wrist slapping. And you know what? Now all of a sudden they understand that that's not good enough. They've been blemished. They've been tarnished in the public eye, and now we have to do something about it. And that's why I believe this fine is as exorbitant as I think it is.
Okay, real quick before Stephen A. jumps in.
Yeah.
So your bottom line is it's inbounds for Darrelle Revis lately of the Patriots, left the Patriots, won a Super Bowl ring, to go back to his old team, the Jets, and make that statement about his.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it, because I think it's endemic of the league in general. I think everybody steps the line and steps across the line, and I certainly have been a part of it, whether it's Vaseline on my arms or jersey or spray on my gloves. Jerry Rice talked about stick 'em. I mean, everybody's done it. It's depending upon how much cheating you think it is. And again, I think to me it's setting your cruise control in a 65-mile-an-hour zone at 72 and think I'm not going to get a ticket for that because nobody's going to give me a ticket for going, 6, 7 miles an hour over the speed limit.
But you are. $1 million.
Right, but it's still breaking the rules.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
Stephen A. He has no problem with Darrelle Revis's comments. He says it's endemic of the league. Your take.
Well, to touch on your last point, Mark Schlereth, as just a fun way of getting into it, most brothers that are behind the wheel, we anticipate we may get pulled over if we go 7 miles over the speed limit. Let me just throw that out there as an aside, all right?
Okay.
All right? But to get back to your original point, I would respectfully disagree with you as it pertains to Darrelle Revis and whether this was out of bounds, because I do believe it was out of bounds for Darrelle Revis to say this for a couple of reasons. Number one, and most profoundly, was what you alluded to as being endemic within the National Football League. Well, if it's endemic within the National Football League, if this is something that everybody does to some degree in whatever way they elect to try and circumvent rules, then why try to distance yourself from it? Because if you're Darrelle Revis, you played on the New York Jets, you played on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you played on the New England Patriots. All, those previous two teams that you played with before going to New England and winning a Super Bowl, they never did anything. What do you mean the Patriots are known for doing stuff and they've done stuff? You understand? According to Mark Schlereth, everybody does something. So why is Darrelle Revis acting like it's only relevant to the New England Patriots? That's point number one. And point number two, and more importantly, you just won a Super Bowl with this team. You're talking about them as if you had nothing to do with them. You were on that team last year, okay? You were on that field when Deflategate transpired. So why are you distancing yourself now? You're a member of the New York Jets. I understand that. You got your huge contract, which you richly deserved. But you were a member of the New England Patriots. So when you are speaking about stuff, the operative word that needs to come into the equation, or at least coming out of Darrelle Revis's mouth, is the word we, not them. Because you were a part of them, which made you we. It's you too. You were there. So to me, for him to say something like that, I just think was out of bounds. They're the only team you won a Super Bowl with. You have one Super Bowl championship. You benefited by being a member of that team. You showed up to the White House, which you were right to do, as opposed to Tom Brady, who was wrong for not showing up to the White House as President Obama was hosting and honoring the New England Patriots. But let's be clear about something. If you had a problem with the New England Patriots because they did stuff, why do you have a Super Bowl ring? And why did you show up to the White House? Evidently, your issue with them was not that big of a deal to you at the time. So if it wasn't, why are you talking about them now? Play for the New York Jets, do what you do, be the best cornerback in the game, but when it comes to issues of the New England Patriots, keep your mouth shut unless you are willing to sully your name as well, because you are a part of them. You don't get to distance yourself from that if you're Darrelle Revis.
Yeah. I mean, I completely respect and understand where you're coming from. And I understand from Darrelle Revis, he did win that championship there. To me, I just took it more from the fact that you've had Spygate in your past. We understand that you've had Spygate in your past. You got caught for that. You got penalized for that. And again, it's something in my mind that wasn't that big of a deal, right? The fact that you didn't cooperate made it a much bigger deal, and it's part of the history of that organization. But more importantly, it's part of the history of this league. And I really believe the league is trying to change its culture, and it's really hard to change the culture of an organization, especially when the culture has been, what can we get away with?
I get it. Just for the record and for some balance, our man Ryan Clark, who occasionally sits in that seat, played for, what was Ryan, 12 years in the league?
13.
13.
Yes.
Has said many times on the show that he heard cheating about just one opponent of his, and that was the New England Patriots, that wherever he went, whichever team he played for, Washington or Pittsburgh, that the word in the locker room, one franchise was known for cheating, and that was New England. Now, that's to the point of everybody's doing it, and I don't doubt that everybody's doing something. They probably have done it at a higher level than anybody else. Okay.
I think there's no question. And let me just interrupt you really quick. I always look at it from one of my favorite movies, Rounders.
Okay.
And to me, it's very much like the Rounders theme. It's a gambling movie, and one of the main characters, Edward Norton, is called Worm. And he's good enough to beat you straight up, but he's always looking for that angle. He's always going to try to cheat the game. He's always looking for that edge. They work hard. They're good enough to beat you straight up. And what irritates people around the league is they're still looking for that edge. And they maybe push the envelope more than everybody else does, so everybody can look at, oh, crowd noise, pumping it in, not that big a deal. Oops, slap us on the wrist. Oh, this, warming up football, it's not that big. So that's the way the rest of the league looks, I believe, at the New England Patriots.
Yeah. Okay, back to the question. Inbounds or out of bounds? I'm with Stephen A. on this one. This is out of bounds for a Darrelle Revis that I've gotten to know a little bit from the show, and I have great respect for as a football player.
Mm-hmm.
He's also, and again, he speaks the harsh truth here, so I'm going to speak the harsh truth back. He has become the most successful mercenary in the history of this league, and I'm saying that in a positive light, because he bet on himself several times. Remember, he was always at odds, if not at war, with Jets management in his first go-around. And then he said, okay, I'm going to bet on myself. Short-term contracts, I'm going to Tampa, then I'm going to go to New England, one-year sort of contracts, and he hit the lottery each time,
Right.
has made just a very successful ton of money for his position,
Sure.
for what he's done. I give him that. But at heart, that's the mercenary speaking, because he has no love for the team that helped him win a Super Bowl. Again, he was great for them, but
So
were
wait a
they
minute.
not?
So when the mercenary acts like a mercenary, you have a problem with him
No.
acting like a mercenary.
No.
He's been a mercenary. You know that's his history. You know that's what he's done
I
throughout the
get
league.
it, but you would think he would be somewhat grateful to the organization. Again, he was great for them last year. They were great for him too. That guy, that number 12 guy that we've been talking
Right.
about, was he not great in the Super Bowl? And Darrelle Revis, to Stephen A's point, has a ring on his finger because of that organization, and he just crushed that organization.
The Jets made him that first-round draft choice. Did he show any loyalty to them? No, he wanted a new contract every year.
He did.
He left. He went to Tampa Bay. Did he show any loyalty to them? No, he went to the New England Patriots. He's showing any loyalty? No, that's who he is. He's playing for he's playing for Darrelle Revis. That's who he is. He's speaking the truth. It doesn't bother me.
Okay, it just bothers me because in the big scheme of things, you would think that even as a mercenary, he would have just a modicum of being grateful to that organization for what they did for him,
Okay.
even for that 1 year.
So, Mark, just on balance, and Darrelle Revis did say this, everybody's blowing it up because it is Tom Brady, and he said he was never aware of any wrongdoing while he was there. Just on balance, if it does balance it at all. Thank you for joining us.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate
Thank you.
being here. Floyd Mayweather was spotted at the Cavs-Hawks game last night, but earlier this week he was on Sirius XM's Shade 45 radio talking about the fight and how he doesn't really believe that Manny was injured. After the fight, when he was sitting in the corner, no one was rubbing his shoulder. I mean, for him to say he had a torn rotator cuff, that's ridiculous. If his hand would have gotten raised, he wouldn't have said that. I mean, when you go back and look at the weigh-in, he raised both arms extremely high throughout the whole week and training camp leading up to the fight. He was going to the boxing gym. He was having workouts. He was throwing his left hand and right hand extremely hard and extremely fast. Mayweather went on to say in that radio interview that was the reason why he would not grant him a rematch. He's tired of all the excuses. Skip, what do you make of this?
Stephen A. Smith, forgive me for saying this about Floyd Mayweather Jr., but this is getting more outrageously laughable by the day. And I guess if I can dredge up any sorrow for Floyd Mayweather Jr., it's that it is tearing him apart, that the world is giving him next to zero credit for what he accomplished in those 12 rounds against a man in need of rotator cuff surgery 2 days after the fight. So I guess Floyd is now denying that he even had surgery, that they fabricated the fact that Manny Pacquiao, now out for 6 months,
Yes.
had surgery. Or maybe Floyd is now so delusional that he's actually saying that Manny had a surgery he didn't need, that he just faked it, the injury, and went in and had the doctor go ahead and fix a shoulder that didn't need to be fixed so that he could take 6 months off and have an excuse for why he, quote-unquote, lost a fight that I still believe he won. And Pacquiao said again the other day, I won by 2 points after he had looked at the tape. And I will reiterate to you my stance of that. My stance, I was going to say of Monday after the fight. I tweeted it round by round, and I had it 115, 113, Manny Pacquiao. So I'm completely with Manny, and I am 100% certain he actually had shoulder surgery. And I'm going to take the word of Freddie Roach's trainer, who said that 2.5 weeks before the bout, on May the 2nd, Manny Pacquiao hurt his shoulder so badly he had to quit sparring. The Filipino press reported he did not spar for those 2.5 weeks, and they continued to ask Freddie, where is he and what is he doing? And Freddie would say, sort of toying with the truth, if you will, well, I'm having him work out off camera. We don't want all these cameras. We don't want the press to watch him anymore. He wasn't sparring anymore because he was actually too hurt to even fight in the first place. And I will reiterate one last time, there was so much money at stake with a man who had been so fickle about fighting Pacquiao in the first place, who had run for Manny Pacquiao for 5 long years, that Pacquiao thought, okay, maybe if I can get that injection the night of May 2nd before the fight, I can tough it out, and I'll have enough of a right hand because I think I can beat him just with my left hand. And he tried and obviously failed to get the injection because somebody in his camp screwed up the day before at the weigh-in and forgot to check the box that he actually had an injured shoulder. I don't know what happened, but Pacquiao and company, the camp says, somebody at Top Rank just screwed up on that one. So he didn't even get the injection. He fought with a torn rotator cuff with no medication and fought his behind off, fought with guts and courage that Floyd Mayweather Jr. should actually be complimenting. He should now look forward to a rematch for money's sake alone, because Manny Pacquiao deserves a rematch that he would win. I thought he won the first fight. So I feel sorry for Floyd because he's getting no credit. Okay. And now he's actually, every time he walks in an NBA arena, he gets booed. The champion gets booed. He got booed in Atlanta. He got booed at Golden State the other night because nobody's giving him any respect for beating a one-armed man, Stephen A. Smith. I'm sorry to drive home the truth.
What if they're booing him because they think the fight was boring?
Well, what I'm saying, they're giving him no credit for the boring fight of beating a man with one arm. With one. So, to quote my friend Stephen A., schooling a one-armed fighter. Okay. Schooling, yeah. All right. Way to go, Floyd. Proud of you.
Hey, Stephen A., you still there?
Are y'all finished? Y'all finished?
Okay, he's there.
Y'all finished?
He's still there.
Yeah, I'm here. I just want to make sure y'all finished. Y'all got y'all little stuff out the way.
Y'all are finished, but y'all need to start because I'm not sure you have anywhere to go on this one.
I don't need to go anywhere, Skip Bayless. Freddie Roach reached out to me yesterday, and he still needs to know what shoes I want.
Here we go. Yeah, okay.
I apologize, Freddie Roach. I'm going to be on the website within the next hour for Tom Ford, my Tom Ford shoes. You'll be getting them this afternoon. Okay, that's number one. Number two, Freddie Roach is taking that position, Skip Bayless, because he recognizes what the world recognizes, regardless of the fact that the one ultimate contrarian in America, Skip Bayless, arguably the biggest contrarian in American history, the way you bloviate, you lost. Everybody accepts the fact that Manny Pacquiao lost this fight, but you. Oh, I'm sorry, and Evander Holyfield. I apologize.
And Eva Longoria.
Yeah, you're both 31. So what? Here's the bottom line. Oh, stop it. The point that I'm trying to make to you is this. In the end, here's what it comes down to, okay? Floyd Mayweather won the fight. Floyd Mayweather highlighted immediately after the fight and beyond. He had both of his shoulders were messed up. Both of his hands, because historically he's had bad hands. They were messed up. He still showed up at the fight. He didn't make any excuses. George Foreman came on Mike and Mike afterward, and he pointed out how very few boxers go into a match without something wrong with them, because that historically happens. It did not stop Manny Pacquiao from showing up in a weigh-in like Floyd Mayweather said and raised both of his arms in the air. It did not stop Manny Pacquiao from going through that 4th round flurry or that 6th round flurry, which you thought were big deals that ultimately assisted in Manny Pacquiao
out in the crevices of your warped mind, having won the fight. The bottom line is that it didn't pan out for him. And so here you are, everybody's making these excuses. I want to take a moment to applaud, I repeat, applaud Floyd Money Mayweather. And here is why. Because it would be one thing to just stick out your chest, he's a coward, he's a punk, I won the fight, blah, blah, blah. Floyd isn't stopping there. He's highlighting and articulating what people like you said entering the fight and ultimately what was supposed to transpire. Y'all talked about Floyd running for Manny Pacquiao. Well, he showed up May 2nd, okay? And Floyd said going into the fight, I'm going to do what I always do, no matter what that was. The fight was a mega fight because Floyd, customarily going up against guys who are bigger but slower, now walked into the ring against a nemesis whose footwork was supposed to be faster, whose hand speed was supposed to be faster, whose ring savvy and generalship was supposed to be up on par with Floyd, and ultimately he still couldn't deal with it. He went from throwing 1,000 punches to throwing 400 and change and missing almost 400. This dude connected on 19% of his punches. The fight was a dud, not because of Floyd. It was a dud because Pacquiao wasn't what he was supposed to be for whatever reason. And now that you get an opportunity to engage in revisionist history and speak retrospectively, you want to turn around and talk about a rematch? Floyd might be getting booed. He had his headphones in his ears, by the way. He didn't hear the boos. But he might have been getting booed. But he walked away with over $200 million. Floyd is fine. It's Manny Pacquiao that has the issue. If I'm Floyd, why waste my time? I don't need it. You had your chance. You lost. Period. Get over it.
Okay. So now that you have insulted me by calling me the biggest contrarian in the history, I think it's either of the world or America, one or the other, when in fact I have to defend myself that I have taken some unpopular opinions that often have proven true because I was the truth teller, so I have to defend myself.
That's true.
Okay?
That's true.
And now you have opened the door for me to ask you back. How can you be objective about Floyd Mayweather Jr.?
Oh, I could easily answer that. Let Floyd Mayweather lose the fight to Manny Pacquiao, in my eyes, if he would have lost. I would say so. Remember, Skip, I'm the dude that got cussed out over Twitter and beyond for months leading up to the fight. I'm the dude that walked on the air, regardless of how much I know him, and said, oh, hell with that. You ain't retiring without fighting Manny Pacquiao. I don't want to hear about Amir Khan. I don't want to hear about some David Garcia or somebody. We want Pacquiao. I'm the dude that sat up there and said, I would not buy another Floyd Mayweather fight until he fought Manny Pacquiao. We want Pacquiao. My objectivity is never questioned by people who are fair-minded, because at the end of the day, not only am I fair-minded, but I understand with all of those dollars that Floyd has earned, the Bugattis, the Lamborghinis, the mansion, the penthouse suite, the private jet, and all of that stuff, don't a damn one of those things pay my bills. This pays my bills. Sports Center pays my bill. Radio pays my bill, and beyond. That's what pays my bill. And my loyalty is to me and how I feel. So you can bring up whatever you want. But in the end, I'm going to call it like I see it.
So in the
end,
it's
never changed and it never will.
In the end, today you are the dude who is defending a Floyd Mayweather Jr. who is suggesting that Manny Pacquiao didn't even need surgery. That's the suggestion from Floyd. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with it.
I'm defending the Floyd. No. I'm defending the Floyd Money Mayweather who says, I don't want to hear the excuses. That's who I'm defending. Don't come to me with that excuse after the fact. You lost. Man up and admit you lost to the better man that night. Give me a rematch. You were the better man May 2nd. But give me a rematch, Floyd, and I'll show you that I can be better next time. That's cool, but you don't sit up there and say, oh, I won the fight, but at the same time I had a torn rotator cuff, and I could have been better. He didn't really beat the real me. He doesn't deserve the victory. You don't do that
Okay,
after
last
talking
thought.
all of this match,
Last thought.
making commercials, trying to humiliate him into fighting you.
Manny Pacquiao fully believes he won the fight. And remember, moments after the fight, he was astounded that Floyd won by unanimous decision. Remember his quote? He didn't do nothing. He didn't.
To be able just to make plays to help your team win is all that matters for me. And when we have a guy like this that was shooting the ball extremely well, who broke the game open, but also contributions from Deli off the bench once again. And then our two bigs, both of them having double-doubles, in their time. It was big time.
God bless J.R. Smith. He definitely saved us tonight and with his energy and his spark off the base.
All right, in the words of Tristan Thompson, God bless one J.R. Smith. He scored all 28 of the Cavs' bench points in their win against the Hawks last night and set Cleveland's record with 8 3-pointers in a postseason game. Stephen A., can he keep doing this?
No, he cannot. He can't. He'll do it sporadically. He can do it 3 out of 7 games. But he's not going to do it night in, night out because that's not JR's game. He's very, very streaky. He explodes 1 minute, and then the next day he's off. One game he's shooting 60%, the next game he's shooting 30. So over the course of a series, I think you can count on him sporadically to be explosive. He's a consistent threat because you never know when he can get going. But in terms of the consistency, sometimes the shot falls, sometimes it doesn't. But nevertheless, I'm really, really happy for him. I'm real proud of him. He plays hard. He's out there defending, Skip. He's not just shooting the basketball. He's actually playing some defense as well. And I give him a lot of credit for that. He obviously is not scared of the moment. I remember years ago, this was the J.R. Smith I was expecting in New York because if you recall, they got him essentially to replace Landry Fields, and thank God for that because Landry Fields was allergic to playing in the month of April. The minute April arrived, it wasn't April Fool's Day or anything like that, but it certainly wasn't Landry Fields' month. I can tell you that much because he just never showed up in April. But J.R. Smith was one of those guys that he was going to be a threat. Whereas Landry Fields wouldn't even shoot the ball, J.R. Smith was letting you know unapologetically he wasn't shy about putting it up. He's on the court, the ball is going up, win, lose, or draw. And so because you see that from him, you see a game like last night, you're reminded as to why he's so important to the Cavaliers' success, particularly in the absence of a Kevin Love, because Kevin Love can give you that perimeter shooting. Without him out there, you were going to need somebody else to step up and do that for you so they didn't get to just key on LeBron James in terms of the opposition. And when you think about what J.R. Smith has been in New York, I got to admit to you, it's incredibly impressive, and it speaks to the greatness of a LeBron James because he seems to be peeling out greatness from individuals on any given night. It's always somebody different that's stepping up to the plate. And you look at Iman Shumpert, the way he defends on the perimeter, he's been sensational. You look at J.R. Smith, the way he was last night, and it just makes you wonder about what the hell was going on in New York City because you had both of these guys with Melo, and they were a shell of what we're seeing them be right now. But you got to give mad credit to J.R. Smith. He's in Cleveland. He's focused. He told me primarily is because there's not really much else to do. He was joking about that, but maybe he wasn't. That was a few months ago. But in the end, what it comes down to is that these are big moments, and J.R. Smith ain't scared of it. He's not wilting beneath the pressure. He showed up last night. The Atlanta Hawks had no answer for him until it was too late, and my hat's off to him. He deserves the praise that he's getting today.
I am completely with you on this one. I'm proud of this guy for what he's done going from the Knicks to LeBron. And I agree, LeBron deserves a share of the credit for a J.R. Smith who's become incredibly valuable to this Cleveland team without Kevin Love and with a severely limited Kyrie. And again, I don't know if people have noticed, but the 4 teams left in the playoffs are the 4 teams in the NBA that most depend on and most effectively utilize the three-point shot. These are 3-point shooting teams. LeBron's not a great three-point shooter, but he's the igniter of the three-point attack. And last night, like you said, hey, no stage is too big. The biggest nights this guy has often come under the brightest lights, such as last night. I can make a case the Cavs will go as far as JR takes them. And that you can say that's a scary thought. But Stephen A., I'm going to hit you with the scarier one. When we see him shoot the ball like that, nobody can get hotter on this planet than this guy can get in stretches. And I look back at a J.R. Smith who was Sixth Man of the Year, what was it, just a couple of years back?
2 years ago.
And a Shumpert, we see what he can do, shooting the three and defending. Do you realize that Phil Jackson, in return for those two players, your man Phil, your Knicks, received only a second-round pick in 2019. So 4 years from today, you get a second-round pick, and that's all you have to show for J.R. Smith and Shumpert. This wasn't a fire sale. You just gave them to the Cavaliers, and maybe, just maybe, who knows, you helped give LeBron another ring with these two players.
If we're fair, first of all, I appreciate you bringing up Phil Jackson and the New York Knicks. Clearly, Skip Bayless, you have no love for me today.
Oh.
That's a good way of showing it.
I was trying to.
That's the last thing I needed to hear.
I was teeing you up,
but it's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna. I'm just not gonna lose it. I'm not gonna give Phil Jackson or the New York Knicks any more of my energy right now. They've already disgusted me enough this week. Okay, so we're gonna move on from them. But I will say this. You know, I am a Carmelo Anthony fan. I think he's one of the top 5 offensive players of this generation. And I love him as a person, but I got to tell you, he doesn't look too good in all of this either. Because how these two guys look playing with LeBron James appears to be on a significantly elevated level than what they looked like playing with Carmelo Anthony. Now, we know why that is. Because Carmelo Anthony's a scoring machine, but he's not the best player in the world, which is LeBron, who can amp it up and be the best player in the world on both ends of the floor, by the way. He's not that dude. But at the same time, if you're Carmelo Anthony, you got to see what these guys are doing with him, and maybe it should enlighten you about what more you need to be to elevate your level of greatness to another level. Because clearly, Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith are benefiting from LeBron more than they did with him.
That was a very powerful point.
J.R. Smith, again, mentioning the same thing that you guys are talking about. Happy that he's now in Cleveland playing with LeBron James. Before this game, Smith had never made more than 5 3-pointers or scored more than 26 points in his 59 postseason games.
ESPN Radio, bringing you directly to the biggest events in sports.
Center field, well hit, Hunter back, out of here!
From opening day of baseball,
Throw to the plate, safe at the plate!
right through the World Series.
For the 3rd time in 5 seasons, the San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
Whether it's LeBron, Chris Paul, or Kevin Durant, when the NBA tips off, ESPN Radio is right there when a champion is crowned.
We have a new world champion. The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
And when the magic of bowl season arrives, ESPN Radio is your home for the new college football playoff.
The college football playoff first national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
The biggest events in sports can be found right here on ESPN Radio.
Take a look at this. Tony Romo tweeting, "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?" It's a picture of him, DeMarco, Jason Witten, having a good time. Maybe that's Orlando in the back a little bit. We can't really tell. Skip Bayless, take a look at his tweet. Do you have a problem with that tweet?
Unfortunately, I took a look at his tweet yesterday because I now follow Tony Romo, so it just flashed up before my very eyes. And Stephen A. Smith, seriously, I came very close to unfollowing Tony Romo at that moment because he continues to very publicly regret losing his friend and highly respected teammate, DeMarco Murray, to the Philadelphia Eagles. Tony, you got to give it up for the sake of the football team you are supposed to be leading right now. For those who don't know, the line that he wrote, "Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio?" from the old Simon and Garfunkel song, Mrs. Robinson, used in the great movie The Graduate. The next line is, a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. So Tony is turning his lonely eyes to DeMarco. How do you think that makes his current running backs feel? Darren McFadden and Ryan Williams and Joseph Randall and Lance Dunbar. It makes them feel like, we don't work for you, Tony? Move on. You have to lead this team into next year. He's an Eagle. He's a rival. Let it go. Tony, or I might have to let you go.
What do you mean you're going to let him go? You're going to unfollow him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But he's still going to be your quarterback.
I don't know.
All right. Mm-hmm.
You know what? You are one bandwagon jumping somebody. You know, you're unbelievable,
Go
man.
ahead and say it.
You know, you don't honor bets.
Uh-oh.
You don't honor bets.
I don't.
You make bets and then you find excuses to back out. That's right. I
honored
said
your
it.
bet.
You do
I
all
wore
of this
that
other
junk.
stuff. You still didn't honor the bet. You didn't wear it for 2 hours. I don't want to hear it. I don't even want to talk about it. But here's the thing, Skip Bayless. Here's the thing, Skip. What you're saying about Tony Romo, you're basically saying that, right, because that's what winners do, correct?
I have no comment.
They move on. They forget.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Yes.
So you don't have a comment because you know where I'm going.
Yes.
You know where I'm
You're
going.
correct.
How can
You're
you
correct.
expect something? You know, there's a movie that was out years ago. It was starring Lawrence Fishburne, Andy Garcia was in, a couple of others. It's one of my favorite movies. It was called Hoodlum.
I know it well.
Lawrence Fishburne was in the back seat,
Yep.
and Garcia was talking to him about, you know, Dutch Schultz, the other mobster, and how you think a guy making that much money, he dress right, he'll do all of this, and Lawrence Fishburne leaned back and said, when you don't know, you don't know. And that's what we're talking about with Tony Romo. You're talking about things that are ingredients to winning. When you don't know, you don't know.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Tony Romo's never won. And that's what it comes down to, Skip. He's learning. Be patient.
Well, he did win a
Teach him how
playoff
to
game
win,
in Green
Skip.
Bay last
Go
year
ahead, 'cause he hasn't
that was
won
stolen
anything
from
yet.
him.
He did.
Because that was a catch.
According to him,
that
his
was a
second
catch.
tweet.
That was his second,
I have no
Yeah.
recollection of that.
Yeah, right,
I have
right.
no recollection of that
Okay,
whatsoever.
here's my bottom
How about
line to
them
this
Cowboys?
discussion. You know what? I'm not sure my man Tony belongs on Twitter. I think he's going to trip, stumble, and fall on Twitter.
It's only his third tweet. How can you go that far and say he doesn't belong on Twitter?
That's a bad tweet. I got to tell you, that sends the wrong message to his current teammates.
Yet you follow
And you
him.
didn't
So
follow
what does that
Stephen
say
A.
about you?
Can you follow
What
Stephen
does that
A?
say about you?
It tells me I shouldn't follow anybody.
How's Des doing? Is he tweeting okay? Are you okay with
Tweeted
it?
about JR last night.
You think?
It wasn't real deep. It was just like,
Just
damn, JR. You know,
just
like,
JR, that's
Skip.
all? Okay.
yeah.
Hey, Skip.
Yeah.
When you don't know, you don't know.
That's one of his favorite lines from one of his favorite movies.
Where have you gone, Mrs. Robinson?
Another football player had some words to share with the Twitter world. He was very outspoken. It's Colts punter Pat McAfee. It's about Ryan Tannehill's contract. Take a look. He said, well, today's market showed that a 25-25 record gets you a $96 million American dollars. Gets you $96 million American dollars. Andrew's about to own a team, I think. Tannehill, Luck, both hashtags. Let me correct you, my friend. His record is actually 23-25 as a starter. And Luck, who was in the same draft class, will not get a new contract, Stephen A., until next season at the earliest, till the end of the season, actually, according to Jim Irsay. So, do you have anything to say about what Pat McAfee tweeted? Does he have a point?
Well, you know, obviously he engaged in a little bit of hyperbole because if Peyton Manning has never owned a football team and Tom Brady doesn't own a football team, Andrew Luck certainly is not going to own a football team. So he's being a bit facetious there. We understand it. We take it for what it's worth. But I get his point, and his point is incredibly valid. When you consider the contract that Ryan Tannehill just signed, that Jay Cutler ultimately signed, that Tony Romo ultimately signed, and you look at a guy that's just in his third year in the league, just completed his third year, all 3 years in the NFL, despite being the successor to Peyton Manning, this guy has a 33-15 regular season record. He's taken them to the playoffs all 3 times. He just finished taking the Colts to the AFC Championship game. He threw 40 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, passed for nearly 5,000 yards. I'm sorry, Andrew Luck, it ain't just about his level of production. It's about the potential upside. He's improving every year in terms of his percentage, yards thrown, touchdowns thrown. Threw more interceptions than he did the previous year, went from 9 to 16, but did go from 23 touchdowns to 40 touchdowns passing. QBR increased as well by 1.7 points. When you look at his, the cerebral portion that he brings to the game, his intelligence, his commitment and dedication to his craft, the fact that he's only 3 years into the league and he's reliable and trustworthy and a model citizen as well. If you paying these guys that money, Andrew Luck is worth at least double that. There's no question he's going to get paid. No doubt about it. Easily more than $120 million, I can tell you that.
Okay, I don't know why we're exactly using Ryan Tannehill's contract as the measuring stick for Andrew Luck, because, again, his guaranteed money ranks only 11th now in the NFL, and 3 quarterbacks who have better deals than Tannehill are Kaepernick, Cutler, and Bradford. So I just don't know that that's going to change the price of eggs as it pertains to this guy. But this guy, Andrew Luck, just for the record, in the playoffs, he's now 3-3 in the playoffs, 9 touchdowns to 12 interceptions in the postseason where you make your money. And by the way, that AFC Championship game he got to, Andrew Luck was 12 out of 33 for only 126 yards at New England with 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, playing with regulation footballs on his side. Obviously, that's what we were told, right? Okay. So I don't know. Is that own the team kind of production from that quarterback? Is that reliable and trustworthy?
He's a great quarterback.
Yeah.
That's right there. He's a great quarterback.
Great quarterback.
Yes.
I don't know.
That's what that
I don't know, Stephen A. I mean, are you sure about your guy?
Okay.
Well, he's a great regular season quarterback. He needs to prove he's a great postseason quarterback, particularly when he goes up against New England. He's had his moments, no good moments against New England, good and bad moments against everybody else in the postseason. But here's the bottom line, Skip. It's wrong. You don't make your money in the postseason, evidently. You make it in the regular season.
Yep.
Because a lot of these guys are getting paid despite their postseason futility or absence. You got rookies getting paid $20+ million before they ever play a game. You got guys like Jay Cutler, who's no leader. He's no face of a franchise, at least a worthy one, okay? He's clearly stealing money from the Chicago Bears organization in terms of the faith they placed in him. I mean, please, and look what the money he got. And don't get me started with Romo getting his money with 2 playoff victories in 9 years. Please, if they can get their money, Luck can get his.
Speaking of one Romo, he's not following you yet, Skip. He's following Chase Crawford, though.
I think I got to get out of there.
You got to get out of there? That means you can't follow him anymore?
I don't know.
More first
You don't
take.
need him, Skip.
In just a few
You don't
moments.
need Tony Romo.
You may need him.
Please.
Come on. This is happening tonight. The Warriors try to take a 2-0 lead over the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. It's on ESPN. Our coverage begins at 8 Eastern with Kia NBA Countdown. The game tips off at 9. Stephen A., you want to pick a winner quickly?
I'm picking Golden State to win this game. They will win tonight as well.
I got Golden State by 15 tonight, winning a little more comfortably.
Looks like we're on our way to Northern California. We'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Thanks for listening to the podcast. You can catch First Take Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
Miguel Cabrera leads the Detroit Tigers into Anaheim to face Mike Trout and the Los Angeles Angels. The pregame's at 7 Eastern, followed by first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN2 and on ESPN Radio.